on the final exam review, and they say yes, then I will write +1. So they have 8 plus 1, which is 9. So that becomes 9 times 1.5, which is 13.5 out of 15 would be their score, except that I'm going to just check. After the after we do the exam review, I'll look a few days later. I'll make sure they have reflected. If they have, they get that. If they don't, they get the 8. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is this. When we get to week 15, it's too late to go back. You have to do it, because I'm saying everything by week 15. When we get in class that day, if you've done 3 reflections, the best you can do is 4. Because you can do 1 more, you can reflect in the exam review, that means you can do 4. But what I'm not going to allow people to do is go all the way back. How many reflections have you done? None. And I go, okay, well, you're going to do the exam review? Yes, +1. But not, how many reflections have you done? None, but I'm going to go and I'm going to do them all tonight. And so, 10. Oh, okay. And I have talked about this before, right? Yes? Yes. I've discussed this a few times, right? But I want to make it real clear, because I don't want anybody protesting this. This is how it works, okay? Is that, and I think I even wrote that in on the blog. I believe I explained it on the blog, because I want to be real clear on this, okay? Is that this is something you're supposed to be doing as you go along, but I'm opening it up a bit. But I'm not going to open it up so much that you don't have to do anything until, you know, the second before the final exam starts, and you're just typing, oh my God, I got 6 more to do. You know, no, I'm not going there. Okay? So just to make sure we're real clear, you can add 1 when we get to week 15, because you can reflect in the exam review. So you can add 1, but you can only add 1. Okay? So please, for the reflections. So does that answer your question? Yes, you can go back, but only up until week 15. Okay? Okay. Yes?
Is it okay to talk a bit about format and content of the final exam?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, it is. What I'm going to do for the final exam, this is kind of, and those of you who had me for the curriculum seminar will sort of be familiar with this. Essentially what I'm going to do, we will have had, let me see here, we've done sessions right from the beginning, right? Well, the first night was an introduction, right? I didn't do an actual session that night, right? So if you toss out the first night, because I was getting used to how the class worked and so on, and then if you toss out the last night, because the last night's an exam review, okay, that would be, so week 15, which is an exam review, and really talks about everything that you wouldn't have, and then week 1, in which I overlaid the course for you, right, you wouldn't have, so that would give you 15 minus 2, which is 13, right? So you have had 13 different topics that we've talked about, right, essentially. 13 different areas from the foundations of education, right? So what I will probably do is I will probably list those 13 areas on your exam paper, okay? And I will ask you some questions, all right? Probably I'm thinking it's an, what is it, a 3-hour exam, I believe? I'm probably going to ask you 3 questions. There'll be essay-type questions. Okay, no multiple guess, no fill in the blanks. I don't believe in that for a lot of reasons. Foremost, you can't really show your learning in this type of course, I don't think, unless you write things out and talk about it. Now, I'm not going to be a fanatic on grammar on the final exam. Okay, so if you make a mistake spelling a word, it's not going to be, oh, 30% off. No, I'm not going to do that, okay? But so what I'm going to do, now there's some guesswork here, because I'm not sure this early. It's early. Okay? But basically, you're going to have 13. I may knock off 1 or 2 of the topics. So you probably will have, like I may pick 1 or 2. Like, I'll be honest with you, I might drop standards based. Not because it's not important, but because when we look at a list of, say, the 13 most important things, or if we're going to do 10 or 12, it would probably be slightly down on the list of importance. So I may knock the list down. The list may only have 11 or 12 topics on it. Okay? But then you're going to get probably 2 or 3, I think probably 3 essay-type questions. And the thing is, the questions will be designed so that you can answer them using the areas that you feel you want to write about or talk about. What does that mean? What it means is you might have to look at, in those 3 questions, you might have to look at, say, a maximum of 5 or 6 areas out of the 6. I might say compare 2 of the areas on this, and then choose 2 areas. Do you understand what I'm saying? But you won't have to look at any more than, say, 6 of the areas. And I will design the questions so that you get to decide which 6 you want to study. What does that mean? What it means is you get to look at stuff and say, I don't think this is going to help me so much right now. Maybe you are somebody that is, in the area of math, and you're looking at very specific things. And so there's certain things, maybe some of the things we talked about in holistic approaches or whatever that we talked, I can't remember the terminology we use for all these things to go back. But maybe you're saying, I don't really want to use that, so that's not so valuable for me, so I'm not going to study that. Okay? But certain other areas we looked at, like maybe extraordinary teaching, is I want to use that. So you get to choose which 6 areas. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm going to design the questions so that the questions will allow you to choose what you want to study. But you still have to study some of it. You won't be able to just say, okay, I'm up and around, I'm not going to study. Okay? Because then you will be in trouble. You probably would fail the exam if you didn't study at all. But I'll set it up so that you can choose 5 or 6 of the areas that you want to study. And you don't have to try to learn everything. Right? And then remember that you've got to answer essay-type questions. So you don't have to know everything even about the area that you're talking about. So if you're looking at, extraordinary teaching, for example, you don't necessarily have to know every essay that's in there. You might need to know what some of the key indicators are, the passion, and some of the other things we talked about. Right? But you can choose which areas you want to study and how you want to use it. Okay? So what I try to do, my general objective with these exams is basically to do 2. First of all, remember we talked about, I don't know if we did this in here, Marcel was the other class, we talked about testing what you want, what you know, versus what you don't know. That was not this class, was it? Okay? So I won't go into that right now because that's kind of a long discussion. But first of all, I'm trying to find out what you know. I'm not interested in what you don't know. I'm not trying to test to find out the weaknesses. I'm not interested in that. I'm trying to find out where are you strong, what areas are you able to talk about, what are you good at. Okay? So that's sort of the first thing. And the second thing is, just like everything we've done, it always comes down to application and use. I'm more interested in what you understand and will be able to use. So that's how I'm going to design the exam. It's going to be about how you would take this stuff and apply it. Okay? And I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan necessarily of these written exams. But to a certain extent, that's part of what we do with it. And I'm not criticizing it. Every system has its way of doing things. And that's just one of the things that are part of this system. And I'm here, I'm enjoying, I love being here, I'm collecting a paycheck, I'm going to play with the team. I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to throw this out because I don't like it. There's some things that I might not agree with, but, I'm here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it, design it, so that if you study and you concentrate and learn what you're interested in, you will do well. That's how I'll design it. Right? So as long as you prepare yourself, you're almost guaranteed to do well on the final exam. Okay? Does that answer your... Sure. Okay. Yes?
When you said study, we go back to the readings that you listed in our reading material list, or how do we find this?
You can look at the readings. You can look at the blog. You can even, if you can remember what the class is such, you can look at some of the videos because Mark's put a lot of them on. Any of that. Any.
So we can even go on Google and find any articles.
You want to look at other sources? You can do that. Yeah, you can.
So not limited to the reading.
No. I mean, if you put things in there that come from other sources, that's fine. And we haven't talked about it, but it applies, that's okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. On the other hand, like don't put nothing on though. Don't get to the final exam and just put, something from other things you've read, because then I might be sitting there thinking, well, it's great that they read all this stuff, but they didn't learn anything at all from what we did in class. So, does that make sense? Like you wouldn't, I don't think you would do that anyway. You're talking about bringing in other material to supplement, and that's fine. Okay? But don't replace everything we've done, because then I'd be sitting there thinking, well, they just studied the night before by reading other stuff on Google, and maybe they didn't pay attention in class. That's not so good. I know that wasn't the intent of your question, but I'm just you know, putting it out there, that's something you need to avoid. It's certainly other sources, of course. There's always other things that are out there. That's a good question. Anything else on, not necessarily the exam, application, foundations, anything? Yes?
It's all essay questions for
Yeah.
6.
Well, what I'm going to do, I'm not sure exactly.
6, 7.
It's early in the game. I'm not, 7, I don't think I'm going to go that high. We've done, like the way I look at it, kind of the way I look at it is this. As I think I've said over and over again, you don't have to understand everything that I talk about. And I'm cognizant, I know that with the language issue, that some of you come in here and if you understand half of what happens in a given night, you've done well. And that's okay. But on the one hand, I can't just say, well, 3 essay questions, 3 topics, that's not enough. After 15 weeks, you should know more about the foundations of education than that, right? But on the other side of the coin, you don't need to know everything we've talked about. It's overload. There's no value in that. So the number is going to be something like 5 or 6. I can't see it being less than 5 because that cuts it down too much. You're not getting enough out of the course. I don't think I'd go over 6 because that's half of the material. And I've said before, well, a little less than half because we actually had 13 topics. But to me, over 6 is we're crossing the halfway point, and I don't think you need to know that much. It's not all applicable to everybody in here. I know that. Okay, I'm sensitive to that. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. I don't know exactly till I get, because it's early yet, and I haven't sort of designed the exam, but I can tell you that's going to be basically what it will be like. Okay. Any other questions on anything? Yes. I think I said 6 to 8 double-spaced 12-point font, didn't I?
Yeah.
6 to 8. 6 to 8 pages. Yeah, not 68.
For what? For the application? For the application, it can be more, right?
What?
It can be more than that.
Yeah, don't go too high. You know, if you get past 10 pages, you're probably overkilling it. But I mean,
already over 10, so is the page I send it to you like this?
how many is it?
16, 15.
Don't anybody else do that. Okay, yeah,
I did that.
I'll take it.
I did that already on 14.
Oh my God, how many people have over 10 pages in their application paper? Okay, I can live with it. Don't anybody else do that.
It's easy, it's not the page.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Pages are a reference thing.
Sure.
So it's 3 to 12.
It's no big deal. I'm okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
I know when you said research.
740 pages. Doctor Evan. It's like a triple doctor.
41 right now. Oh my God.
You might want to look at it and see if there's anything you can cut. Okay, seriously. Yeah.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a book.
Anything else?
Take a book and change my name to book.
Any other questions on anything else?
John Smith wrote the book, and change my name to John
Yeah.
Smith. And then we see this is my book.
Okay, what I'm going to do, second, sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if you feel comfortable with everything at this point, you guys are free to go, but you do not have to go. If there's more questions, I will stay until you guys feel you're asked what you need to ask. I'm going to stay until people don't have any more questions to ask, but if you feel comfortable and happy with where you are right now and you're like, I've had enough, I want to go home, I'm okay with that. I won't feel offended, you can leave. Okay? All right. Yeah?